Listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Atlantic Institute webinar series. We're here today with Ken Spence, the Managing Consultant of Transport Initiatives, and we're here talking to you about using green travel to attract a wider range of visitors. And of course, this is part of the Capability Brown series of webinars. So I'm just going to open my kind of toolbox here and check that everybody can hear us correctly. So if there are any problems, just do type us a quick message, and I'll just wait kind of 10 seconds, 20 seconds to see if anybody's going to do that, because we wouldn't want to be nattering away over here and you not listening to us. So I can't see anybody screaming for help, so I'm just going to close this up and hand you over to our speaker today, who is Ken Spence. Hello, Ken.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ken Spence, Managing Consultant, as Laura said, for Transport Initiatives. We did a piece of work for Capability Brown Festival of putting together a green travel toolkit, along with Phil Jones Associates, particularly Adrian Lord, who's doctored some of these slides after my first attempt. And what we'll be doing is in this presentation going through roughly what the toolkit is all about and giving a little bit of advertising and info about what its content is. So just to start with, the Capability Brown Festival, its key reason is to try and get more people to visit Capability Brown sites and make them more accessible to people. And sustainable transport fits in with that very, very beautifully, because as we've been doing this piece of work, yes, we are very moral and so on in our consultancy in that we want to encourage sustainable transport, but really this has come out as a marketing tool. We find that in visiting sites and so on that what we're trying to do is build a new audience and sustain the existing audience and really encourage people to want to visit more sites. So the toolkit itself, it considers how access can be improved for existing visitors to the sites, encouraging them to come back, but also developing a new vibrant visitor base to the sites, the Capability Brown sites, the hundreds of them and other attractions that exist within the UK. So what's the toolkit all about? Well, I think in visiting sites, we've sort of come up against the idea that really because, most of them are more rural than urban, that there's sort of an idea that you would only drive to these sites. And but in the visits that we've made to actual sites, we find that certainly isn't the case. There are lots of opportunities for other modes, more greener modes, different modes than just driving by car, to get to the sites and to actually access them. And I think that what the toolkit is all about is just helping people to find a new way of thinking about how they approach the site, how they view their own site, and then being able to develop on that and giving you the tools to be able to assess where you are now and where you can go next. And we find that there are many, many opportunities there for you to do something about it and to improve the situation. So what's actually in the toolkit? Well, first of all, we tell you how to use it, which is very useful. And then we go through all the different things that you can address, which are either different types of modes of travel or different aspects of the way that you market your site. So it starts off with the marketing options, which are websites and also the printed information and on-site information that you have. So those will be speaking to both your existing visitors and potential visitors. And then we go through the different types of modes of travel that there are. There's cycling, walking, bus transport, rail transport, and surprisingly or not, visitors arriving by car. It is possible to have greener visitors by car, so we look at that. And then a very important one, partners. We will be talking a little bit in this webinar about partners. And then finally, getting yourself a green travel strategy for yourselves, your staff, your volunteers, which is looking at how you move ahead, a plan for moving ahead and actually getting yourselves going on this or going further than you are already. But some of you may already be there. And then there's an assessment matrix, which this sort of appears throughout the whole document. I'll explain that in a minute. And very, very finally, we explain the perfect site and what it might be like. Now, we put that at the end because we didn't want to put people off by seeing that in the start and thinking, oh gosh, we could never get anywhere near there. But that's just not true. There will be aspects of the perfect site which you will already have in place, and you would be able to move towards that. But nobody's perfect. We haven't found a perfect site yet, and that includes places like the Eden Project, which we have looked at least on a website manner. So how to use the toolkit. Each section starts with an explanation of what that section is all about, sort of fitting it into its wider context, explaining what the importance of, for example, websites, cycling, whatever it is, and where it fits within the bigger picture. And then really point 2, 3, and 4 here sort of fit together. Because what we want you to be able to do is first is to look at your own site and assess where you are on the great continuum of becoming a fantastic green travel destination. And nobody will be judging you. You will be just looking at yourself and saying, well, this description fits us. So when you get on to point 3 here, there's an assessment matrix. And what that contains is a series of little statements about what might be where you are. And we've ranked it into sort of 0 to 5 of what your score might be. So you look at the statements, you see which ones fit you, and you know what your score is at the moment. Then you look at what the next step up is, and you look, well, we could do that. We could move on to that, and we will try and do it. There's an example in a minute, which will explain what this is. And then it enables you to see even further ahead. So you look to the sort of score of 5 and you say, oh, that's what we would be when we are a brilliant green travel site. So this is what we need to do, long-term planning to get there. And then we use examples from the real sites that we have visited, which we can say, well, we've been here, we've looked at this, and these are the possibilities that could exist here. And finally, in each section, there are an awful lot of fantastic web links. It is amazing how much you can find very, very quickly by just a few clicks on the computer to find very, very useful websites which will help you move further on. So here's an example of one of the matrices. This is the one that fitted most easily onto one page. Some of them are quite long, but the car transport matrix is a good example because it starts at 0. You may have heard of car clubs, you may not, and the people that not on this have never heard of car clubs. So that may be a site where whoever's there, oh, we never knew that those things existed. That's not a judgment, it is just, that is where you may be. And but now you've no excuse because you know about car clubs. And what are car clubs? Their car clubs are people who do not own a car can get access to a car which will be parked near them. They can book it, they can use it, they can go to places, sites, they can take it for a week, they can do whatever they want. And what we now know is they're all over the country, in the UK and major cities particularly, there are car club cars which are available so people can join this and get access to a car, like a hire car, and use it to go somewhere at a slightly cheaper cost than they would with a hire car. So if you look through the matrix, what you do is you look at the different descriptions. So say, for example, somebody who is at point 3 on the matrix, they've already contacted car clubs. They're looking at advertising special deals with the car clubs on their own website and also be advertised on the car club site. And providing privileged car parking spaces in the car park for car club cars. And then another thing would be looking at electric cars, there may be a charging point that you could establish at your site, so somebody who comes by an electric or hybrid vehicle can plug in when they're parked there and visiting you, and then move on from that. So again, you find where you are in the matrix, you find which descriptions fit your site, then you look at what the next steps would be. So if you score 3, you look at 4, you look at 5, you say, well, we could jump to 4. We can we're in the process of getting this. The next step is to actually put it in place. Once we've got it in place, we can move on to 5, or we may be able to jump straight to 5. So you look at, so for each of the different types of modes, there will be a matrix like this, which will have these descriptions. You just find where you are, you look at your next steps, you work out how you can implement those, and then move on. So really, what we're doing with this is it's a virtuous circle that we're trying to create. You're looking at where you are now, what's the potential, and how do we exploit it. So we're saying, oh yeah, we've got opportunities here, this is what we can do, and we do it, and we also look at the longer term and start doing the things which would move us towards the longer term strategic things that we can do to improve matters. And then we go back to the beginning, we reassess ourselves where you are now, and this just goes round and round and round, and we repeat this process. We may, once we start implementing things, maybe we visit other sites, we see things that would inspire us, and we can sort of start again at the point of where we are now, and this opportunity is right. Once you start doing this, your minds will open up to all sorts of possibilities of things that you can do. Right, developing a plan. Somebody who wants to visit your site, first of all, they will probably go to your website if they're remote, if they've never been to you before, or if they are an existing visitor, they look at the printed stuff that you have available, or maybe they pick it up at a bed and breakfast or a local library or wherever. They will be looking at, and they want information about how they can get to you, what opportunities exist when they do get to you. And what visitors will want to know is it safe if they're cyclists, for example, they want to know, can they park when they get to the site? Is it convenient? What are the facilities? What's available? They may have an old person with them. They might want to know what the accessibility is at the site. So these are all the types of information that you really need to have on your website. And even if it's not on the website now, when they get to your site, they may find things. If you started developing these, they might find that, oh gosh, we could have cycled here. We didn't know that. It didn't tell us on the website. But next time, they may want to come back and cycle to it if they're that way inclined. So what you need to do is look at what you present now and see what more you can say, what more information. People want information. They want to know what is available to them, what's possible. So the more you can tell them, the better it is. Okay, planning a visit. What does your marketing leaflet say, and what does your website say? We have a little example here from the Eden project, which we sort of thought should be the perfect example or the best example. It is an environmental project, so they should be environmentally friendly, and yes, they are. If you want to visit the Eden project by train, on the website it gives you the plan of the walking route from the nearest station. It also gives you cycle routes and so on, and they're very, very prominent within the website. So that is the type of information that people want to see. They want to know that they can do this. And the type of people that you're appealing to, the whole experience of walking from the station is part of their day out. Their whole experience of cycling to the site is part of their day out. They will plan that. It will be an integral part. It's not just, oh, we've got to get there. They will enjoy that whole part of the journey. And by creating for that, by providing for that, you're actually satisfying a need that they want to meet. So this is Hatfield Forest. This is a typical example of a National Trust website page. They all have a how to get there page, which is a sort of standard format for National Trust. If you're not National Trust, that you may not know this. If you are National Trust, you certainly will know this. But what is how this is populated, the page, is up to the individual attraction as to how much they put on that site. You'll notice here that road sort of is fourth in the options. Now, what we would advise is that you put road travel at the bottom of the options, so we'd maybe move bus up on this one. But what we want people to do is when they go to the website, they see that there are other alternatives. If we put road just first, put traveling by car first, they won't look at the other ones because they may have in their own mind that just like that mindset which we had, which, oh, we could only drive here. If you show other options, and there's quite a lot of information on the other options, then suddenly they say, oh, it's not just somewhere we could drive to. We could cycle, we could catch the train. And if there's plenty of information there, good web links to and so on, then that is what you can do. And working with bus and train, you are not alone in this, and we will talk about partners a little bit later on. You're not alone in this. When I visited one site, there was a station very close to it, and I had to say, well, what's in it for the rail company to promote your site? And they get more people on the train. It's what you got to think about is from the bus operator's point of view, from the train operator's point of view, when you're looking at public transport, what is in it for them? They want more passengers. They want more people on the trains. If you can work out deals with them, which would include sort of like joint ticketing, whatever it is, they will be very interested in working with you. So you're not alone in this. In remote areas, the bus service may be community bus. And again, with working with them, you can strengthen your links to your local community. So there are simple things, talking to drivers. Chatsworth, for example, they have talked to their local bus companies, and all the local bus companies now will deliver into the site rather than stopping outside. And if you know Chatsworth, it's quite a long drive from the entrance to the actual house itself. So for a lot of people, getting the bus right up to Chatsworth House is a big bonus. And the bus companies should be very interested in doing this. The picture that you see here is of Scampston in North Yorkshire, near Malton in North Yorkshire, and the coastliner bus, which goes between Leeds, York, Malton, I think it goes to Harrogate as well, and on to Scarborough and Whitby. It stops just outside the entry to Scampston Hall. So one of the things we've suggested to Scampston is talk to the bus company and think about, would they be prepared to just add a little detour into your site, because it's quite a walk from the bus stops, to get you, or even open up a new entrance to the site next to the bus stop, which people could walk through. So there are lots of opportunities there. There's an existing, the bus service also links to the local station in Malton, so there's a possibility of linking up the two, the train and the bus travel there. So let's look at an example. Burton Constable was the first site that I visited as a case study example, and it's about 10 miles east by road, by trail, from Hull. And I cycled there from Hull Station and discovered that it's actually a very good venue to cycle to. Even 10 miles may sound like a lot, but around Hull it's fairly flat. What we find is, oh, I think there should be another picture. No. Anyway, if we're thinking about cycling, cycle journeys are now mostly done for leisure purposes. And it is a growing part of the rural economy. For example, the coast-to-coast cycle route. There are businesses which exist simply, bed and breakfast, food businesses which exist simply because of the coast-to-coast and the number of riders doing that. So it's sustaining a tourist economy. If we think of cyclists, they have very, very basic needs. They just want to, if they're visiting you, they just want somewhere where they know they can lock their bike up safely and a cafe. Cyclists like cakes and they like to stop. And if you've never had a cycling visitor, then you need to ask yourself why. Because if you have a road to your site, which I think it means every site, then people can cycle to you. And where cycling can be a bigger offer, you can think about the routes around your site. You can think about cycle hire at your site. You can think about hosting cycling events, family rides, races, sportives are very, very popular, where they will have break sites and so on, and your site could be somewhere where they could have that, or even a weekend festival. And there's a whole range of people who cycle. That goes from individuals who are just out for an individual ride. The serious cyclists will think nothing of going for 100 miles. Families will think of a lot shorter. Couples may want to cycle short or long. Families want to come out. Groups and clubs. There may be less formal groups, which is maybe a group of friends, but clubs. At the weekend particularly, there are an awful lot of cycle clubs throughout the country. Again, the toolkit gives you web links to find out where these clubs are, who they are, and give you contacts. And they will go and they will build in a cafe break, and your cafe is probably somewhere that they would be very interested if they can park. So if we look, here we are, family, they're using the train. Cycling is also a link, as we say, to public transport. It can be the glue, even if you've got if your site is up to 10 miles away from the nearest public transport hub, then cycling can be a viable option between the local transport hub and your site. And again, as I said before, people who want to cycle will see that as part of their day's entertainment. They will see that that is something they want to do. They will build that in, and you would be the destination, but the whole ride, the whole journey is part of their days out. They will enjoy that. They will enjoy being part of that. And so cycling can be a link either for families or for others. So we'll go back to Burton Constable again. And I visited there in the middle of the week in May, and just absolutely perfect for me was there was this group of 11 cyclists from a university of the third age turned up to have their lunch at Burton Constable. And they parked outside the cafe and had a beautiful lunch, and I chatted to them, and they told me that this was not the first time they had been there. So there are people who are already visiting. Now, Yorkshire is particularly full of lots of cycle clubs who like to do socially, but I'm sure that's fairly similar in the rest of the country as well, from what I know. And so here was an example of a cycling group finding that Burton Constable was a great venue to come to and using it. Now, what you have is these people had been before. They would probably come back. They may come back as individuals, and they may visit the rest of the house. If they're made to feel welcome, then they will come back. And there may be existing routes. This was the route. The top right photograph shows you the Hornsey Trail. Now, if you were coming from Hull to Burton Constable, most of it is quiet. Well, it's all quiet, fairly quiet. But the majority of the route is off-road on an old railway track, the Hornsey Trail. And the map on the bottom shows a walking route which goes very near to Scampston. If you look at the top left-hand corner of the map, you'll see Scampston Hall, and the red route is the Wolds Way, which is a long-range walking route. Now, what you could think about is look for local tracks, paths, routes, and see, may you be a spur off that route? There might be somewhere that you can become a destination as part of that route. But again, the web links are there for you to look at. That's within the toolkit. You can find out for yourself, are you close to these? So looking at Burton Constable again, I cycled out from Hull Station to Burton Constable, mostly on the Hornsey Way. And when I got off the Hornsey Trail onto the local roads, they were incredibly quiet. I think in about 2.5 miles, I met about 2 cars. So, but what was interesting was that none of the junctions were signed to Burton Constable. So again, when you think of this, you may be able to get people from your local cycle clubs who would plan routes to your destinations for you. Again, this is one of the things that we'll talk about in partnerships briefly. But here's the Hull Cycle Hub. It's run by the City Council, and they provide hire bikes, including electric assist hire bikes. So your whole journey, once you got to Hull Station, and Hull Station is also the bus station, so you've got people who did not need to or did not want to bring bikes with them could come here, could hire a bicycle from the Hull Cycle Hub, cycle out to Burton Constable on a nice route, come back again, and have a day out. So these possibilities exist. There's the possibility of joint marketing with the Cycle Hub, working with them, talking to them about what they could possibly do in the future, and including it in your publicity in future. Once you start talking, you never know what sort of possibilities might arrive. So back to Burton Constable. This was the existing cycle parking at Burton Constable, which was covered, apart from it being a little bit damaged, but nobody parked at it. Remember that photograph we had of all the bicycles attached to the fence? This was unfortunately at the back of the car park where people couldn't quite see it, and so people wouldn't use it because it wouldn't feel as safe, but they would want to park where they could see it while they were having their lunch, see their bicycles. And that's part of the security that cyclists will want to see. And now this is Sherburn Castle in Dorset, which was one of the places that they had. Well, they reckoned they had no cycle visitors, but there were lots of opportunities for them. The wall that you see in the left-hand picture was completely unused, and that area was not used for anything else. There is cycle parking, just simply hoops that you can attach to a wall, which would be more than ample for what cycling visitors would want. If you've got a large group of cyclists that come as a cycle club, they're quite happy to lock their bicycles to one loop and then lock the bicycles to each other. And similar for the covered area that you see in the right photograph. All you would need in there is even some temporary fencing and so on that cyclists could just lock their bikes to, and would be reasonably confident it wasn't going to get walked away. So make your cyclists welcome. If you advertise that cyclists are welcome at the site, in your published materials and on your website, that there will be, for example, free cups of tea or whatever, or even reduced entry to the main part of the house or the gardens or whatever. These are the things that you can think about to make cyclists welcome, and that gives a message to other visitors. If you're having no cyclist visitors at the moment, and you suddenly make them welcome, you're not going to lose from it. You're going to gain income, even if it is slightly less than you would charge for full visitors, because if you're not getting it now, you will be getting something in the future. And we thought about walkers as well. You can be the hub for walking routes. The two leaflets that you see are produced by Kirk Harle, which was Capability Brown's birthplace. And these are walks from Kirk Harle village around the local area of various things, which have been put together by a local volunteer on behalf of Kirk Harle and sell in the tea shop. So this is just some local initiative which has been put together. And again, make sure that you sign walks, you make sure there's plenty of information for people. And making your site attractive to less able people who may have mobility issues. This is palms, pushchairs to wheelchairs. Advertising that will suddenly make you a hub for people to visit as well. Could make you much more attractive to attract more visitors. So having the site well signed when people get to it, well provided for in terms of the types of paths. We'll just show these ones. The grasses and gravel is not perhaps the best thing for wheelchairs and pushchairs, but if you can manage to create better paths and better signing, then that will make you much more attractive to a wider audience than maybe visiting your site now. And I did say we'd get on to partnerships. Partnerships are incredibly important. What you may not realize is there are a lot of people out there who want to help you, who want to be part of it. I mentioned the cycling clubs. Cycling people they're like most sort of little groups or growing groups. They are full of enthusiasts who want to plan routes, who want to work with sites and so on, and will be willing to help you plan routes to your site from various other places like local towns, local transport hubs and so on, and we'll plan that for you, we'll prepare things for you, work with them, see them as allies rather than just problems. Your local cycle hire shop, your cycle hire or cycle shops, they will also be willing to help, because again, think of it, what's in it for them. They're going to sell more bicycles, they're going to meet more people, so there is interest for their businesses to improve that. Other nearby attractions, you are not in competition with other nearby attractions. They can be partners with you as well, because if you get people come to your area, then they will visit other places, they'll come back. And public transport providers, we've mentioned about that. There's something in it for them to get more passengers. Private hire and taxi companies, Scampston, one of the first things that they've done is they've made an arrangement with a local private hire company and got a fixed rate from Malton Station to Scampston Hall with one of the local companies, and they'll be advertising that and saying what that is and who to contact. So there again, you can make these partnerships. We've mentioned again car share clubs as well. There are all sorts of possibilities. Once you start talking to partners, you will find out there are all sorts of possibilities that you can exploit, that they will exploit with you as well. But you are in this together rather than on your own. So what next? Once you've used the toolkit, you can develop your own green travel strategy. You go through all the matrices, work out where you are, see where you can go to next. If you need help, then nice people like us can assist you for a very reasonable price. And there are others who, other than Transport Initiatives and Phil Jones Associates out there, who you can approach. But we have found that in visiting several sites that there are lots of possibilities. There are all sorts of possibilities which exist. And demonstrating your green credentials and seeking out new audiences can also be a means to put together a successful Heritage Lottery Fund bid. Let's just look at the Heritage Lottery Fund. That their funds are, they've got different funds, but what they're based on is the Heritage Fund in particular is aimed at getting more people, a wider range of people, to appreciate heritage, engage with heritage. And as I said, this is a marketing tool to increase your audience beyond where it is now, which is older, car-borne, and probably getting smaller. And so you will be increasing that audience. And it's also, the Heritage Lottery Fund is looking at reducing the environmental impact of people visiting heritage. So if you put together a green travel strategy and start to implement parts of that, you will be hitting both of these key parts of what a good, successful bid should include. So that's me finished. I'm just welcome now to take any questions. I could go on. I could have gone through the whole toolkit, but we're now ready for questions. So please fire me some questions. Please take down our addresses and so on, and feel free to contact us at any time if there are any questions that you want to ask and any help that you might be able to let me. The advice is free. So please fire away.
Thank you very much, Ken. I'm a Londoner, so I don't have a car. I'm a very keen cyclist, and I must admit, for those initiatives, it was very clear and obvious for me to kind of go to places, and this is how I got there. And I had a nice place to put my bike and everything. It would help. And that's just from a complete third party, outside of perspective. A lot of what you're saying really rang true with me. So yeah, as Ken said, these, we're leaving a slide up here, so you can take down these. If you have any questions now, feel free to ping them to us, and we've got some time now to answer them. But if you want to dash off, or if you need some time to digest this information and formulate your thoughts a bit, do write down Ken or Adrian's email address, or as always with our webinars, 24 hours afterwards, there will be an email ping you that you can just reply back with any feedback or any questions you might have. And also, of course, as usual, this is going to be immortalised on our YouTube channel. It will be embedded on the webinar page on our website forevermore. So you can go back, listen to it, put down any ideas that you got throughout. So I'm just going to bring the toolbar up now. No, okay, good, as I thought. Ken, you've been extremely thorough, and I think you've covered pretty much everything. But if you do think of anything after this, as I said, please don't hesitate, Ken. But we love speaking to you. We love giving our advice, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
So do get in touch, and mostly thank you very much to Ken for giving up his time and doing this webinar for us and for you. And thank you for you all listening today and in the future. So without further ado, I'll say goodbye.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.